Hi and welcome to this episode of Knit Pose with the Moon. So I'm Solène, your host, and today together we will share a moment of creative pose around the theme of finding your creative light and finding your energy in this early spring. So I will start as usual by sharing a few reflections around this season, this new moon, and three creative invitations for you to use this energy in your creative activities. And finally, we'll end with 10 minutes of guided meditation to pose, relax, and find your creative light in your knitting poses. So, a few words first about the season and this new moon. I always like to start by anchoring these podcast episodes in the season, but the themes that I talk about are pretty universal, so you can listen to this podcast in any order and whenever you feel inspired by the theme. So this one I am recording right now. It's April 2021, and we are having a new moon in the sign of Aries. So it's the beginning of spring and nature is awakening, is growing, is blooming. As you can see, I am recording for the first time in the garden, and I'm so happy because the vision for this podcast for me was to be able to record outside and to be in nature as much as possible. So I'm excited that it's finally spring. And spring is a season where everything is suddenly accelerating in nature, and you might be feeling this energy, this urge to go out, to move, to get things done. But it's also a transition season between the slow and pauseful energy of winter and the bright, energizing one of summer. So spring is this in-between space and this moment where we kind of have to find out where we want to grow and where we are going. Just like, the trees are growing in this season and making new branches, new leaves. So we kind of have to find out where to direct our own creative energy. And that's what we'll be exploring today together. And this first new moon of the astrological new year in Aries, so it's a fire sign. Aries is a fire sign, so it's about how we can shine, how we can express ourselves with others, and it's a sign that's ruled by Mars, so it's often seen as almost aggressive or ready to fight. But more than that, Aries is really about going boldly for what you want and for what's true to you and aligned to your values. There's a cat coming in. So this is not my cat, this is a random cat that I just met today. But he is so cute. Cutie. So anyways, my three creative invitations for today are, the first one is to connect to nature as a teacher, because it is early spring and because nature is so beautiful to watch. You can really get a great source of inspiration just looking at nature, just being in nature, if you can go outside, or just if you can open your windows and take some time to really take in all of that energy and activity happening at the moment. So my invitation is to look at nature as a teacher. So in your observation of nature, what can you learn? How can it help you in your own growth? And it's a season where everything is going and growing very fast, but we also need to find moments of pause and reflection. And yes, thank you for your input. And those moments of pause and reflection can be found in nature and can be very powerfully spent in nature these days. And posing in nature is a way to remind yourself of that you are a part of nature and that you are parts of its rhythm, of the rhythm of the seasons, of the moons, and yeah, and it can also be like this invitation to connect to nature as a teacher can also be just looking at things in nature and finding in nature inspiration for your own creative activities. I'm thinking, for example, in this season there are birds making nests everywhere, and the crafting techniques that the birds used are so intricate and so fascinating to watch, and they sometimes are pretty close to our own crafting technique, like sewing, for example. Some birds will kind of sew with their beaks things on their nest, and so it can be very, very inspiring to find this connection and find those things in nature that can inspire you in your own creative activities. And yeah, and so how can we learn from the birds? How can we learn from the trees growing their branches, from the beautiful flowers, and from everything that is happening in nature right now? And connecting to nature as a teacher is also a way to remind ourselves to treat it with the respect it deserves, and to give back to nature. So, for example, spending some time tending to plants, growing a garden if you have the space to grow a garden, just taking care of the nature that's around you in any way that you can. Because all that we need comes from nature, like the yarn that we knit comes from wool, from plant-based fibers, and so this season can just be about just being grateful for what nature gives us, and thinking about how we transform those gifts of nature and the shape of yarn that we turn into knits, and how can we turn it into something meaningful and special. So that was my first invitation, creative invitation. The second one is to learn new things and experiment, because spring is a very active season. Nature is active and everything is growing, so maybe you are also feeling that energy of wanting to grow things, wanting to learn new things and to try new things, maybe in an unexpected way. And so if you're feeling this energy, you can think about what you can learn. So maybe if you feel like learning a new technique or experimenting with the technique that you already know, but try to do it in a different way. And it can be in the most simple things, like for example, you can knit a pattern that you are used to knitting, but try a different bind off this time, or like little things, little ways of modifying or making things your own. And the main thing is that through experimentation, you can find kind of a playground, something to have fun with, and not being too attached to what the result will look like. So experimentation can also be in working with a different yarn than what you're used to working with, trying a different yarn or different technique, maybe trying a new craft altogether, like spinning, yarn dyeing, crochet if you don't do crochet already, and all. It's about like trying out, and like remember that when you try out something, you will often fail. It's part of the process. We can't get everything right on the first try, and this season is really about being okay with that. And of course, like, you might feel some frustration from times to times, because when you start experimenting, you open yourself up to that part that won't always work, but that's like the beauty of the process. And I want to spider I want to offer some a metaphor maybe for that. When you think of plants, how they grow, like trees, how they grow in the forest, like there will be a lot of plants, a lot of seeds coming out of the ground and turning into very little plants. And then little by little, some will grow stronger than others, and some will just die and stop growing. But like those plants that won't grow into becoming a big plant or tree, they are not useless at all. Like they will come back to the ground and they will become compost, and they will nourish the soil and make it more fertile, so that the one plant that did grow stronger than the other can grow even more and be fed by all of those other ones that grew alongside it at the beginning. And so to me, that's really what experimentation is all about. It's about letting yourself be in that state where you let everything grow at first, and where you let yourself go any direction that inspires you, and don't worry about which one will be the best and which one you'll be better at or things like that. You just experiment and have fun with it, and then eventually your direction will become clear, because there's one thing that you will be called out to do more. But this season is about doing it all and trying it all, and not be too attached to the results, if that makes sense. So that was for the second creative invitation of learn new things and experiment. And the third one is find how you shine. So because we're in this new moon in Aries, which is a fire sign and all about shining your own light. So this is kind of the two first creative invitations are more about how you can learn from nature, from others, and learn new things and take new things in. And this one, shining your light, is about the opposite. It's about how what gifts you have to share with others, to pass on to others, and like you don't have to be an expert at something to teach someone else or to share with someone else and to shine a light. We are often taught that in order to shine, we need to be perfect, we need to be the best, we need to work hard or have worked the hardest, or that we are just part of the exceptional few who are more talented than others. And that is just not true. Every one of us can shine, every one of us has a creative light, and shining is about being true to who you are and expressing it, speaking from that truth. So finding your light and finding your creative expression is really a process, and not something that happens in one day, but it's so important to me. And it's not so much a process of like adding things and learning things, as it is a process of retrieving who you are deeply, because you already have that creative light in you. And it's about finding it behind all the education, all that you've been taught, and all the times that you've had to hide who you are and stay quiet instead of expressing yourself. And like this idea that I want to offer you on find how you shine is not so much about being like individualistic, but thinking and having this idea that every one of us has something to bring to the collective, and you have something to bring to the collective. And by shining your light, by retrieving your light and expressing who you are creatively, you bring something to others. You have the power to inspire others, to teach to others, and to bring something good to the collective. And so this can be a tough process, but since we are in the season of growth, in the season of light and new beginnings, it can be a bit easier in this season to like reconnect to that shining part of yourself, and to take a moment to think about what you want to express with your craft, about how you can be a teacher or a mentor to others, and how you can bring your skills, but also like your wisdom and just who you are to the world and to others. So that was my last creative invitation for you today, and now I have prepared a guided meditation around this idea of finding your light. So make sure that you are comfortable. The meditation will be about 10 minutes long maximum. So if you need to readjust, pause, and find a comfortable space, you can do so right now. And then I'll see you back in a minute. So when you're ready for our moment of meditation together, I first invite you to turn inward and start by closing your eyes if that feels comfortable to you. And if not, you can just keep a soft gaze. And take a moment to reconnect to yourself and to observe the rhythm of your breath going in and out. These breaths are your own natural rhythm. And you can observe them, your breath, for what they are today. There's no need to change anything. Connect to the sensations of your breath in your body in this moment. Feel how it moves, how it flows. You can connect also to the state of your emotions and observe them just as what they are. You are entering this space of pause, a space that you are making just for you, for the next few minutes. And take a moment to feel how wide it is, this space of pause. Feel how it expands with each breath that you take, each moment that you spend here, relaxing, connecting. Take a moment to connect to the ground beneath your feet. Feel how it supports you, how strong it is. It is the same ground that has always supported you, always been there. The same ground that gathers us, knitters, in this virtual space, wherever we are in the world. The same ground also that supported and fed our ancestors. On the same earth, under the same moon, and the same sun. It is the same ground that connects you to all living beings on this earth. And in this early spring, they are all growing, reaching, awakening. Feel this connection to the plants, with the trees growing new branches and leaves, making buds, turning into beautiful flowers with gorgeous colors and delicious perfumes. Feel this connection to the animals, with the wild animals of the forests that just came out of their long winter hibernation and are feeling very much alive. And the animals closer to us in the fields, the animals whose wool we use to create the beautiful yarn that we knit. Sheep, goats, alpacas, all running around in the beautiful green grass, with their cute little lambs and other babies taking their first joyful steps. Feel this connection to the whole animal realm that you are a part of. Feel the vibration of nature awakening and growing as you are growing too in this slow moment of pause. You are a part of nature just as nature is a part of you. Under this bright, shining sun of spring, you too can shine. Connect to the light of the sun. It's the light that allows all the plants to grow, the light that feeds us all. Feel its warmth on your skin, in your body. Feel its warmth all around you. Now I invite you to imagine yourself in a big bubble of bright yellow light. Feel that circle of light all around you. Feel how comforting and energizing it is. This circle of light is your own solar power. As it gathers around you, it connects to who you are, and it shines your light big and bright to others around you. And everyone can see your beautiful solar light if you are bold enough to share it, because it is who you are, deep inside, a being of light. And as you stay in your light and enjoy its beauty, its power, you can ask yourself and ask your own light, what do I want to express? How do I want to shine? What is my gift, my superpower that I can share with others? How do I want to shine? Take a moment to be with your light, to connect with it. Maybe you will get a clear answer, and maybe you just need to ask the question right now. How do I want to shine? And when you're ready to come back, you can take some deep breath and let your breath slowly bring you back to your body. Feel the creative energy that you've made for yourself in this moment of pause. And remember that you can always connect to your own creative light because it is always there. And take the time that you need, and when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes again. Thank you for sharing this moment of meditation with me. I hope that you enjoyed it, and this concludes our podcast episode for this new moon in Aries. I hope that you enjoyed it, and feel free to comment if you have anything to share, if anything came to you while listening to the podcast. And if you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. And so I wish you some very creative knitting poses, and I'll see you back here on the next new moon in May.